What is going on, everybody? It's Tuesday, March 17th. Happy St. Patty's Day. We don't have to talk about what happened before we start.
We're gonna. We got a great practice run in.
Got an
So
awesome
this should be the best show we've ever had.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties before we hit record on this episode.
Technical difficulties is an interesting way to put it.
Some technical difficulties. I'm Drew Fusco. That's Zach Bastian. No Johnny Granada tonight. He's at the grocery store.
Weak link in the pot. So in our practice run, I started this whole thing talking about, clearly we've identified the weak link of the podcast. We're just built different. Not everybody's, here for this life. And then we go through probably 45 minutes of recording.
Not 45.
And it's not recording. Okay, half hour. Got a great practice run. Here we go.
We got a good practice run. Anyways, this is the Start Your Studs Fantasy Football Podcast. And we're going to jump right into it. We've got some free agency recaps, winners and losers. We're going to look at some of the quarterback prospects for this season. We told you guys last week we would do some dynasty stuff coming up, and we're going to start today. Look at some quarterbacks, see who could potentially be fantasy viable in the next maybe year or two. I like to kind of look at dynasty in 2 to 3 year windows. I don't try to look super, super far ahead because the space is so volatile. So I kind of look at it in those windows, and that's kind of the way that I went with the quarterback prospects, because there's a lot more than we're going to go over for sure. Some of them may work out, some of them may not. But let's look at some things that happened in the last week. The last episode we recorded last week, Max Crosby got traded to the Baltimore Ravens until he didn't, because the Ravens backed out, basically as the deal was done. A lot of word going around that this is like a shady move by the Ravens. And earlier you and I were talking about, like, this is just business. And it was a good move for the Ravens to back out of the trade ultimately. Whether the rest of the league wants to do business with them anymore or not, I wouldn't really care if I'm the Baltimore Ravens. Ultimately, not having to give up 2 first and being able to get Trey Hendrickson out of it was the best move for the team, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a smart move knowing that they had an opt-out with the physical that they knew Max Crosby was going to fail because he's hurt. They're just smart. Just having a plan B in case the trade didn't work out, and then both of your plans coming to fruition with an opt-out of the more expensive one. That's just smart business.
Yeah, and in the end, that's really all it is business. So, good on them. And good move with Trey Hendrickson. It's weird that, like, division rivals end up even doing deals at all. Same conference. Guys moving around interdivisionally. Sucks for Joe Burrow, but we'll get to a little bit of that later. Next up, let's look at one of the prospects we mentioned was Fernando Mendoza, who is pretty clearly going to be the number 1 overall pick. He's going to go to Las Vegas. And the good news is Derek Carr said that he was willing to mentor Mendoza in Las Vegas. Again, you and I have talked about this a little bit. Why not? Bring him in. If Derek Carr is willing to come back and still play football, and he's still able to play football at a decently high level, I'm a firm believer in rookie quarterbacks sitting when they first come into the league. Whether it's half of a year or a full year, like, thrusting these guys into a starting lineup just really does nothing for them other than, you look at what happened to Bryce Young, right? Destroyed this dude mentally. His confidence was at an all-time low. And you could see it on his face. Anybody who watched him play at Alabama, or when he does have a good game, that dude is smiling, he's laughing, he's having fun on the field. But for the first year or two, you could tell that he was not having fun playing football. And it's so important for these kids because you have to remember how young these guys really are, especially when they come into the league. Maybe not anybody off of this Indiana team. They seem to all kind of be grown grown men that Signetti was bringing in. But I do think it would be a good move to have somebody come in and mentor Mendoza that knows the NFL, knows the system, and knows the city that he's staying in, especially a city like Vegas.
Yeah, and I think like again, we've mentioned this before, but the hardest thing for these guys is never the physical aspect of it. They usually come in with all of the arm talent in the world. They're athletic. They're still able to run. They're able to do all these awesome things, but it's always the mental aspect and reading NFL defenses and dealing with the exotic blitz packages that you see. That's really what is the hardest part for these young guys coming in. So adding in a guy who is, I would say, a very solid NFL quarterback for several years, who is familiar with Las Vegas of all places. I know Mendoza seems kind of like a Bible beater boy, where he's not really going to go out and really partake in that city as much. But I mean, still, you need a oh yeah,
you called him
a
Bible beater boy.
That guy. Dude, he is the biggest dork I've ever seen in my entire life, and I'm a God-fearing man. But this man is a soldier of Christ.
He's like if Kirk Cousins and Phillip Rivers had a child.
He might be one. He might be one of the Rivers boys. Oh, and then throw Tebow. Tebow is his biological dad, but he was adopted. So
his Uncle Rico. Tebow's out front like, I could throw this ball over them mountains.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's always the hardest part for these guys. So I think adding in a guy like Derek Carr, who is a very successful quarterback in the NFL, it's going to do nothing but help. So
yeah, and like you said earlier, Tom Brady being a part of that development could only be good for Mendoza. Who I think we like at least a decent amount as a prospect. Speaking of guys who've been in the NFL for a while, all of a sudden we don't have a Travis Etienne anymore. It is Travis Etienne.
Oh, yes, we do. we still have him on this podcast.
This podcast is not going to conform to him all of a sudden changing his name 4 years into the league. He will always be Etienne, especially in the group chat. There's just no changing it.
I just don't understand how you're in the league for this long and like develop the nickname letter E, letter T, letter N, and you just let that ride your entire career, and then all of a sudden now we're Achane after a successful running back on another team was going by Achane and had to correct pronunciation. No, you're Etienne, dude. That's just what it's going to be for. So wait, so what about his brother?
Trevor? Yeah, got to be
Trevor. Yeah, well, how come Trevor didn't say anything?
Nobody.
Wait, no, it's Etienne. I can't help you. Sorry.
I refuse. And we know Johnny would agree with us, even though he's probably picking up apples from the grocery store currently.
Yeah, apples and carrot sticks and
bananas. Yeah. Poor guy catching strays. He's not even here.
I mean, at this rate, he might hop in at this rate.
I don't think I even sent him an invite this time.
Well, he didn't sorry, Johnny. Yeah, no. Gonna chime in from the checkout line at Mariano's.
I don't even know what that is. I'll just be honest. I live down in the South. We don't have Mariano's down here.
Oh, dude.
That's the place, huh?
Big grocery store.
That's the produce place. We're just big Publix people down here in Florida. Let's talk about a couple trades that happened in the last week. The first one was Justin Fields getting traded to the Kansas City Chiefs for a 27th. We both really like this move for the Chiefs and for Justin Fields. You bring someone in who is dynamic, can run around a little bit, can make a couple throws here and there. I don't think he's going to be asked to do a ton with his arm, which is going to be perfect because he's got Andy Reid calling the plays. You wait on Mahomes to come in. You just hope that he's able to get the job done. That way, when Mahomes comes back, he's not coming back to an 0-4 team, and he's got to play hero ball for the rest of the season to try to keep up. with the rest of the AFC. So yeah, good on the Chiefs. I know you like it for Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm a big Justin Fields stan, so that might be not the best thing, but I'm a firm believer that he's a talented individual that has the ability to play quarterback if he's correctly coached, and that's always been my thing. Is when you have these young guys come in and get ruined by bad coaching and bad play calling and bad supporting cast. I mean, this is it. This is what he needs, and if he's not able to do it after this, then he just sucks, and I'm wrong. But I think this is. I mean, you have Andy Reid to develop him. I hope he sits there for a couple of years and becomes a better quarterback behind Patty and within that system, and then hopefully he moves on and he's a good quarterback. But I could just be that guy that just won't let go of Justin Fields. Yeah, he's not old. I mean, he's still got a few years, so he comes out in his late 20s. I mean,
so let's see how I forget how old he's 27. Okay,
we're 27. Yeah, so I mean, so let's say he spends a year or two there. Hopefully that moves the needle a little bit. But I mean, this is the best situation he's ever been in terms of coaching.
For sure.
I mean, everything else has just been a dumpster fire. So
yeah,
let's
this
hope
is
for
going
the
to
best
be
here.
it'll be a super important year for him because he's kind of getting to that age where we see rushing
Start to decline.
quarterbacks who rely on rushing really start to decline at 28, 29 years old. So if he can't develop his arm, this is like maybe one or two more shots at the most. So yeah, big year for Justin Fields, and a big beginning of the year for the Chiefs until Patrick Mahomes can come back. Today there's a big trade. Miami sends Jalen Waddle to Denver for a 26 first, third, and fourth, and they also sent a fourth to Denver. So a fourth swap, and then Jalen Waddle goes to Denver. Great for Bo Nix, was my initial thought on this trade. Bad for the rest of the pass catchers on Denver. It doesn't really bode well for the confidence that they have in them. You and I both kind of agree that there's still opportunity there, especially because Waddle is so injury prone, if that's a real thing. Still very good wide receiver, not old, but like on the other side, Miami, you're in a void year basically now with Malik Willis. We both expect them to do some sort of addition, whether it's early or late in the first round at wide receiver. They'll make some sort of splash drafting somebody. Someone like Jordan Tyson would be awesome in that offense. But you're still putting an inexperienced quarterback in Malik Willis, who they signed for 3 years, $70 million, into a position where he really doesn't stand a chance. It's going to be like his legs and Achane and hoping whatever wide receiver that they draft is good for them to win ball games. The consensus seems to be like they're tanking for a quarterback in 27, but like, why would you go spend $70 million on Malik Willis if you're planning on taking a quarterback next year? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally.
I don't think. I mean, 70 million for a quarterback in today's market, in today's economy, that's not really that much.
It is.
So I mean, 70 million
on Tua to let Tua
well,
go.
right.
There's
right. So
$175
I think that's
million on players who are no longer on the roster.
Oh yeah, I almost had a stroke when I saw that list. Like they're still paying 90% of the team that was there last year. But I don't even think this is the biggest thing. I think we kind of saw the writing on the wall when half of their defense was shipped off. I mean, they've lost so much on the other side of the ball that I think at this point they want to get some exciting names as rookies, let Malik Willis cook for a couple of years, hopefully get a quarterback at some point. They know they're going to be bad, and just kind of fill seats and make some money to cover the bajillion dollars that they have to pay the guys that aren't on the team anymore. I mean, they're in a bad spot. It is what it is. They're just tearing down, starting over. Hope they get lucky on some draft picks. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, this move makes the Malik Willis sign just weird to me. That's it's just a lot of money for a guy that you didn't have to bring in. Um, but I like why not let Quinn Ewers take the reins for an off season into a season, let him have a season and see what happens. Then you either look awesome and he ends up being good because he showed some flashes at Texas. He was okay, um, but you just bring in a guy to kind of waste a couple years at that point. If you bring in someone like Arch next year, what do you just start him over the guy that you're paying 70 million over 3 years to, or do you let Arch sit for another year and then you're kind of like rotating in a quarterback for whatever reason that really doesn't have the experience that you could have just went and got like a Kirk Cousins for, if this was going to be your plan all along. So just a really weird move.
Quick question: you think Achan's there at the beginning of the season?
Um, I do. I think that it'll be if they let him go. I think it'll be after they start 0-3 or 0-4. I think teams will start calling with 27 firsts, potentially on maybe like maybe the second round on the table for Achan. I think that would be the better move for them. Still on a rookie deal, he's not costing the team money, so why not let him sit, see how they start? Maybe Malik Willis and whoever these rookies, maybe they sign Stephon Diggs. We talked about that before. Um, Maybe they find something in a young wide receiver. Who knows? Because if they start 4-0, we've seen teams do it in the past. The Seattle Seahawks had the lowest odds at the beginning of the season to win a Super Bowl. I don't think that this team is the Seattle Seahawks of last year, but weirder things have happened. So I think that they're smart to keep him until we see what happens at the beginning of the year. I do think that they're going to be really bad, though, and I think that they're going to end up trading him. Let's go to some free agency signings. There was a couple that looked like it's going to matter this next season, and a couple that didn't. Let's run through some of the didn'ts. The Bills brought back Dawson Knox. That matters a little for fantasy, especially with Kincaid's injury history. John Mechie reunites with Bryce Young in Carolina. I kind of like that move as a sneaky late round guy. Um, Kind of stacked behind Tet and Coker, but a guy that Bryce is familiar with and just like a really solid pass catcher. Jeremy McNichols signs with he re-signed with Washington. Washington has like 5 running backs on their roster, and none of them are good.
and they might go get Love. Like I
would be.
I hope they don't.
If he makes it down that far, but.
Well, who do you think is going to take? All right, well that's a conversation for another time.
We can talk about that another time for sure. Christian Kirk goes to the Niners for 1 year, $6 million. Kind of just another one of those, I'm sorry, Ricky Pearsall moves. I don't know what to do with him at this point. I don't know if this Christian Kirk move was to play him or just to keep depth because they lose 14 offensive and defensive players every year. But still a good wide receiver going to a good team. So could be viable. Kenny Pickett signs with the Panthers. He'll be the backup until Bryce gets, the hot seat again after 3 games. Dalton Schultz stays with the Texans. Just another solid move, keeping pass catchers around Nico Collins and CJ Stroud. The Eagles today signed Hollywood Brown for 1 year, $10 million. What do you think about this move?
What was the kid that they just got rid of Dotson, right?
Yeah, Dotson went to.
I think that's just kind of to fill the. I don't think he's really going to do much. I think he's just kind of unless they get to a point where they do ship AJ, because I did see something somewhere that the money that it would cost them at before and after June 1st is like a $30 million difference or something. So once June 1st hits, maybe we see the AJ Brown trade rumors start firing back up, yeah, I don't know. Who knows, dude? Howie is a wizard, and I just agree with anything he decides to do. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know.
that'll be a post draft move if it happens. Um, the the drafted wide receiver is too deep, I think, for teams to make any crazy moves for wide receivers except the Browns. Um, sorry, not the Browns, the Broncos with the Waddle trade. That was really unexpected with how deep this draft is at wide receiver. I would have thought teams are going to kind of wait and see who falls where, and then make some moves. But seemed like they were pretty all in on Waddle there. Not for nothing, and I think this is a sneaky signing. Is Emmanuel Wilson signing with Seattle?
I love this move.
I like the dude. I really do. I liked him in Green Bay behind Jacobs. When he got opportunity, he was good. And you've got Charbonnet, who's hurt. He's probably not going to be ready for the beginning of the year. I think if I remember right, he had a procedure like last month. Charbonnet did. So like,
Yeah,
there's a very
he's
real chance Emmanuel Wilson starts. Maybe they make another
there's
move.
a real chance he usurps Charbonnet. Like
That's bold.
he, dude. Emmanuel Wilson was running behind a not great, beat up Green Bay offensive line and looked electric at points. Like he came in and there was nothing missing from Josh Jacobs. I mean, Josh Jacobs is more of a downhill, like I'm gonna run you over, hit you in the face runner. But Emmanuel Wilson, in his own way, was a very effective running back. And I think going to the Seattle team, uh, he could be a very, very, very sneaky late round guy that we all stash. And hopefully the regulars don't catch on to it, but he could. It's like if Sharp is actually really bad and doesn't come back for 6 games or so, we have no idea what this timetable looks like. But
Do you think
Emmanuel
they make
Wilson could
a
be.
move in the draft for one of these late guys? I think they probably like their other running back is George Holani, who
Yeah, I mean they just lost Kobe Bryant, right?
yes,
Yeah, so I mean there's a couple interesting safeties that they have to get. I think they want to kind of shore up the depth on their offensive line, and I there's things that they got to do that are more important than a running back, and I don't think that the running back draft is as deep as the receivers, so they would probably have to spend some decent capital on it.
I don't know.
Again, I
I
don't know
think
how
there's
late
some
these guys are
guys
gonna.
we we both have looked at some of these prospects already, and think about a guy like Mike Washington.
I don't see. That's what I'm saying. I think he's
He's
kind of vaulted himself up into the earlier rounds.
no, yeah, I don't know. I think the fumbling issues there are going to keep him down, um, but holding onto the ball can be taught for sure.
Right.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll
there's a
see. That's it.
possibility.
It's a very interesting signing, nonetheless. I think Emmanuel Wilson. We'll have to retouch on this going into the summer, but
Yeah,
I think that's a very interesting signing that I really like the player. So
for
something to
sure.
keep an eye on.
Yeah, moving on here. The Vikings keep Aaron Jones. Another place that I expect to tackle running back somewhere else. Do they really run Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones out again? I mean, they're the Vikings. Kevin O'Connell.
It wasn't. I mean,
Yeah,
it wasn't bad. It
yeah,
wasn't bad. I mean, that
not really
Vikings
good either.
offensive line got hurt. That Vikings offensive line got pretty banged up throughout the year, and I think that really affected Jordan Mason, especially with the fact that they couldn't throw the ball. I mean, Jordan
Yeah,
Mason's a solid running back, but he's not a guy that you can just run behind no offensive line, no passing game. I mean,
yeah. And,
I
Aaron
think it'll be
Jones at
better this
30.
year.
Yeah, Aaron Jones at 30, probably the same thing, but still a dynamic pass catcher. Jones is so not for
Right.
not. They went and got Kyler Murray. Um, I don't. I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it won't. I've got some Aaron Jones in Dynasty, so I like the fact that he at least stayed there and could be like an RB3 for me.
Useful.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean depth piece. Um, speaking of depth piece, Chiga Okonkwo to the Commanders for a 3-year deal. Um,
Don't be disrespectful.
he was a depth piece. Now he's not. Potentially, we'll see. They love the tight end there. He's athletic. I like him as a player. I'm excited to see what the opportunity comes. And right now, they don't really have anybody else to catch the ball other than Terry McLaurin. So
I was I was very on the I Sino Senate, however you say his
Senate,
the tight end's last name.
yeah,
Ben Sinnott, whatever. Yeah. I was very big on him, and this just kind of confirms all of the sad creeping doubt that he's just never going to get any run. But I mean,
sad.
Zach Ertz is literally on the verge of death at this point. Um, I love Chig. I thought he was. I've been the guy that's always like kind of kept him on my dynasty rosters just because I use another player I really like. I think in an offense where they'll really utilize him, like you said, no pass catchers. I think this could be another sneaky late tight end stash.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how viable he'll be in redraft. He'll be a guy though that is going to go super late, so could definitely be one of the guys uh, who ends up being better than their ADP where they're going. So let's talk about the signing though that kind of has Twitter in a funk over who's who. Chris Rodriguez signs with the Jags for $6 million, and it has like again, Twitter is in shambles over this because there are like the Tootin truthers who are like, no, Chris Rodriguez was never good. And then there's the Chris Rodriguez truthers who are like, here we come, Tootin. And so it's like this battle of who do we think is going to be the guy. Rodriguez obviously has some history with Liam Cohen. They were together at Kentucky, and he rushed for 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns while he was there, which is very good at Kentucky of all places, in the SEC. So he's never been like a pass catcher. He's only got like 7 receptions in his entire career. I'm sorry, 7 targets, 6 receptions in his entire career. But he's also been behind, like you look at the guys who have been in front of him his whole career, because that's been like the big knock that I see is that he doesn't catch passes. But he was behind Austin Eckler, who was maybe one of the best pass catching running backs of the last decade. He was also behind McNichols for a while, who's a great pass catcher. Even JCM, good ball catcher last year. Um, and he may not be asked to. Like he's such a bruising type back as opposed to Tootin kind of being shifty, small, ran like a 4.2 last year. Um, I think we really just see both guys here. I don't think it's going to be, I think it'll be a 1A, 1B, and we don't know who the A and the B is going to be every week. We could have games where it's Tootin and he breaks off a 40-yard run, or we have Rodriguez come in because they're at the goal line and he scores 2 touchdowns in any given week.
Somewhere in an Illinois produce aisle, a grown man is shedding a single tear because he, our compadre of this podcast, I'm pretty sure his children know who Tootin is. I think this just kind of like he was so excited that ETN had left or whatever his name is had left that the Tootin shares just went to the moon, and then here comes Chris Rodriguez, who's just a great bruising back who's probably going to steal everything inside of the 10. Oh man, you got to feel for Johnny, dude.
He's such a big
his rookie picks. His rookie picks have a historical like trend of being interesting, sucking the first year, having a situation where they look like they're incredible, and then absolutely dying. So this is very on brand for him. I would love to have. I had Chris Rodriguez on my roster the entire year last year, and he was a great guy that you knew you could rely on, just if you needed to spot start running back.
Yeah, he was going to score something for sure.
Mhm.
Again, not a pass catcher, so I don't know that he has like the fantasy ceiling that we really want for like a week to week guy. But like you said, a plug and play flex, you're dealing with some injuries at the position. He's going to be a filler, and he's going to have in a good offense with a good coach and who we think after last year is going to be a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. They've got good pass catchers. This Jaguars team is going to score points this year.
They're
And
interesting this year.
and Chris Rodriguez may actually be the guy that benefits from that the most. There will be a lot of Bashal Tutin. I do believe this. But does either guy really have like the big ceiling over the course of an entire year? I don't think so unless there's an injury to one of them.
Well, I think so like we look this duo of Sharb and Kenneth Walker will go down in history. I kind of see that aspect of what they're trying to do here, but except it's going to be a lot more split. But between the two of them, who's probably getting the goal line work?
Yeah, it's Rodriguez.
Chris
sure.
Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're gonna draft one, I really like Chris Rodriguez in the late rounds. That, like I said, to just leave on your bench, see what happens. Worst case scenario, if you have an injury at running back and need a guy to start for a week or two, great guy to have at almost no cost.
Exactly what Charbonnet was last year, and Ken Walker.
Well, he scored a touchdown every game, and sometimes two.
Yeah.
That was the nicest FanDuel bet because it was always plus money too. Like, I don't know if it's going to be to that extent, but again, like Charbonnet-esque, where you always have a touchdown upside, and like I said, I think it'll be a lot more split in between the 20s.
And he
unlike in
averages
Seattle,
almost a yard per carry more over his career than Bashal had last year. Bigger sample size. He's just a good back. I do think that. So interesting convos though going on over on the X machine. Let's talk about some winners and losers from free agency here.
Real quick, I'm sorry, the free agent signings. Mm-hmm. Can we talk about what the hell is going on in Arizona?
You talking about at running back or just in general?
Yeah, at running back, and why they have 17 of them.
I just made a move. I want you to know, in Dynasty, I just made a move to acquire James Conner. Because I have Tyler Algier.
Sure.
So like that's another situation where like we could just see the younger, more mobile back Tyler Algier take. He's a little different than Bashal Tutin is because that's a big boy. But another good back that really hasn't had opportunities that we could see kind of come on. But they re-signed James Conner for a reason. We can chalk up the Trey Benson shares.
Yeah, I was gonna apologize for kind of undercutting our next segment here, but I think this is a great transition into the losers first.
Yeah, it's true. Trey Benson, absolutely a loser, which I don't mean that, Trey, okay? You're not a real loser. You were just a loser in free agency. Good. He was one of my favorite prospects in that draft coming out of FSU. Really, really liked it. I just don't. Him and Caleb Johnson, like, what did they do in their life to get such bad karma that, like, they're never going to get the opportunity? Maybe they're like a second contract. Maybe they don't get a second contract. Running back is so tough.
No. So hold on. This is a terrible comp because Caleb Johnson might just suck. He might just not be good. Trey Benson
he hasn't got an opportunity.
Is actually good, I think. Well, yeah, the opportunity, and then when he finally got it, he got hurt. Like, dude, come on.
I meant more of like the team just is not showing the faith in them that they need. That's more of the comp for a young. I do still think Caleb Johnson is a good running back. He's just never going to get the opportunity. Trey Benson showed he was good last year, and now he's going to be buried on a depth chart.
I need him out of there. I love him. I need him out of there. I have so many pieces of him in all of my dynasty leagues, and he just, dude. I have a leg on one dynasty. I have his head on another dynasty. I got his tailbone in another one. I need him to go play somewhere because my taxi squad is getting full.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Definitely one of the losers of free agency. There's a couple running backs on here. We just go right into the other losers here. But Bucky Irving, another. We can play the violin for Bucky. There are some guys
Yeah.
through the X machine who say that he's still going to get his opportunities, and he might. They brought in Gainwell, who both of us really like. Johnny, big Gainwell guy too. Then they tendered Sean Tucker, who was already taking goal line work from Bucky last year. You look at what happened last year with the injury to Bucky, he sat out, and then it felt like the team kind of just kept him out instead of bringing him back. There was like every week it was like Bucky practicing, could get the opportunity to play again this week, and then he gets ruled out. It happened like 4 weeks at the end of the year, and it's an unfortunate situation. Gainwell's too good to keep off of the field. I can say that. So really, it takes, and Rashad White is gone. That's good, but I worry about my Bucky shares.
Yeah, you should. And it was, dude, when he came back too, it was so misleading because didn't he had like 80 yards and a touchdown when his first came back. It was like, oh, Bucky's here. Yay. No. Go ahead and keep starting him, everybody. It's just gonna ruin your playoff push. But that was kind of the knock on Bucky going into the draft. He's a very undersized, speedy, shifty kind of guy that excels in pass catching, and that's about it. I mean, you don't add you don't add Gainwell and keep Sean Tucker, who's more of a bigger body, if you're confident that Bucky can do it all, because he's just not built like that. It's sad to see that the team is doing the best thing for them and kind of making Bucky almost borderline irrelevant, but it is what it is. It's the NFL.
Yeah, what the hell, Bucks? This is fantasy football. We need you to help us here.
I mean, the receivers. Hey.
The receivers we'll talk about in a little bit.
We'll get there too. Sorry, I did it again. Sorry.
Another loser that I've got on this list is, we talked a little bit about the pass catchers in Washington. It's Jaden Daniels currently. I expect them to address the situation in the draft. The draft has not happened, so these losers could turn into winners at some point. But right now, I've got nervous written all over Jaden Daniels in my reports so far this offseason. Love Jaden Daniels. Talented, great, seems like a great kid. But without anybody to catch the ball, he's going to be overdrafted because he's mobile. Right now, they don't have any good running backs. They don't have any pass catchers. The offense as a whole just seems like it's going to be a step behind. And for Jaden Daniels, I think that's a little worrisome coming off the injuries of last year and not really getting a chance to take the next step, which we all thought he was going to do. But you got to have somebody who can catch the ball and make something happen. And Terry McLaurin, who I really like and is probably underdrafted for being the only guy who's going to catch passes currently, at least at the wide receiver position. He can't do it all at his age. He's 30, 31 now, maybe, pushing somewhere around that 30 mark. So a little disappointed so far in Washington, not helping their young quarterback, especially when that was like the whole talk of his rookie year was they have a rookie quarterback, they can build around him, and they really haven't done that at all.
I do want to see what they do in the draft because, like we mentioned, I think wide receiver is probably the deepest position in this draft, and there are a lot of interesting guys that are probably going to go in the second, third round. I want to see what they do. If they add one or maybe even two of them, I mean, they still have a lot of stuff to do on defense. And this is probably one of the best defensive drafts we've had in quite some time. I don't know if they put some draft capital into a first 3-round wide receiver that is fun, could be an interesting play. But yeah, well, this is another one that I think we need to touch on in June and see where they're at.
Yeah, one of those that's like, please don't stay this way.
This is another good potential landing. Sorry, another good potential landing spot for Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, absolutely. Last loser on the list here, and it's a real, real sad day for my saint, Alvin Kamara. Um,
It's time.
it just feels like it's time. As much as I would love for him to stay, just for like the sentimental value, um, I think it's time for him to move on. I think it's time for the team to collect at least something from him. The team's not in good enough shape currently to not at least get something for him and let him just walk and retire eventually. I think you trade him now, he's got a little bit of value. Bring a pick, something else in, younger player, who knows? But bringing in Travis Etienne, I refuse to do it. Um, it's obviously the move, and they paid him too much money to sit him, and I don't see Kamara at this point as like a 1B. I think he ends up being a two, a true two. Um, Speaking of playing the violin, Kendre Miller, you can play the violin for also.
Oh yeah, he's big gone. That
Which
was
is
just
another
very sad because I
unfortunate.
liked him.
Me too. I did. Devin Neal will probably stay with the team for a little while. He was a rookie last year, but yeah, sad day for Alvin Kamara, and
I
it
mean,
really stings,
Alvin.
fans.
For those who remember when Alvin Kamara was first drafted, he was a very popular name in ball knower circles, where he was just kind of that like later low draft capital kind of guy that we wanted all of us wanted to take a shot on, and everyone got him for cheap that kind of had a clue, and he just turned into everything that you could have ever imagined. He's gonna have a special place in my heart from rookie season on in my keeper leagues and my dynasty leagues. Um, play the violin. He's getting old, man. He had a great
Yeah,
career. I think it's just kind of time.
yeah. There's like those fantasy players over the last couple of decades that are starting to retire now. That everybody like the Julio Jones and the DeAndre Hopkins and the guys who were so elite that guys stashed and kept and drafted every year. And now that they're all getting to like the back end of the career, it's like, oh,
It's like we're
ah,
old now, man.
man.
Jesus.
You're like, come on. You're like sad to see him go, but it's time. Unfortunate for Alvin Kamara. Enough of the bad, though. Let's look at some good. Some free agency winners. First up, it's got to just be Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce for absolutely getting paid after last year with the Colts. Daniel Jones gets
I
like
don't
two
I
years
don't
for
get
88
this.
mil. Um, Good on him, man. He may not even play for the first, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 weeks of the year. I don't know if he's going to be ready or not. Got a bag though for being. I mean, he was so good
I
though.
mean,
He was so
he
good.
got a second contract from the Giants, right? Like a big one that everyone was kind of
He
like,
did.
what?
He got a big
Yeah,
contract
dude.
and then he hurt his neck
This
and his
guy
ankle.
has been the biggest finesse in NFL history. Like the amount of money that this guy has made for being a extremely below average quarterback and having one good year last season. Uh, Good on him. I don't get the Alec Pierce thing, but at least Daniel Jones had something to show.
The Alec Pierce thing is really because he got so much money for again, big 116 million dollars is crazy for someone like
I,
Alec Pierce. It's wild.
I don't understand. I mean, for all we know, we're gonna see this guy running all types of routes next year. I don't know.
Yeah, the thought is that he's going to get like 8 to 10 targets a game, and if he does at like 20 yards a catch, like he's averaged over the last 2 years, then I mean we could see him as like a 1,500 yard receiver, which would be like absolute ceiling outcome for someone like Alec Pierce. I think that's a long shot, personally. Um, there's no way that they just have like Josh Downs and Alec Pierce as their one and two, right? Like, tell me
I
I'm
mean, I
crazy if you're
like
not
I
thinking
like
that.
Josh.
I do too,
I
though,
like
dude.
Josh Downs,
He's a slot
but
guy.
like you have two guys that are like second and third targets on an offense.
That's what I
I
mean. Like, there's no way that they just
I
run
don't
with those
know.
two and Tyler Warren, who really may be the biggest benefactor from Michael Pittman leaving. Um,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I will say that this is a draft with a lot of big body wide receivers.
yeah,
So they
but they don't
might
even
make a play
have
there. But again, I
they don't
don't
have any
necessarily like
picks.
how. Oh, that's true. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, maybe that's why they paid them so. That's why they paid Allen Pierce so
We
much
need you to
money.
stay.
They couldn't get anybody.
Uh,
We'll go into yeah, for sure.
next winner on the list here is the young pass catchers from the Bucks with Mike Evans leaving. Um, Pretty obvious there. It's just opportunity. Emeka Egbuka, everybody is like to the moon on.
Exciting guys, just exciting guys in general.
Yeah, McMillan, even like Tez Johnson. These guys are going to just see more opportunity. They do still have Chris Godwin on the roster. We'll see what happens there. He could end up also being a trade target at some point for teams, depending on how they start. But
Perfect guy for Miami.
yeah. Um, the next one I have on here is the fantasy owners of Bengals after they got rid of Hendrickson. It's the
Yeah.
defense is going to be so bad.
Yeah.
Fire up Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Chase Brown and Joe Burrow.
Just do what you did last year with all of your Bengals. Just do what you did last year.
Yeah, this is just gonna be the same thing this year. We don't have to get into that a ton. Kyler Murray, big winner in my opinion, gets out of Arizona, got paid in Arizona first off, big winner already, and then finally gets to go to a coach who can actually coach quarterbacks. Kevin O'Connell, known as the quote quarterback whisperer, um, he could not be loud enough for JJ McCarthy to be good. Kyler Murray is already good. He was a number one overall pick. He has shown that he can produce at the NFL level. Did you just double Zen, by the way?
Oh, I always do.
the old
Double
Zinner.
60s, baby.
The old double Zinner.
Double 60 upper decky lip pillies, baby.
You're such a college frat guy.
Yeah, and I'm 33. It's rough.
But everybody seems to think there's going to be some huge quarterback competition. If Kyler Murray can't beat out JJ McCarthy, he should just retire.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know there's a way that JJ McCarthy actually starts without Kyler getting hurt.
All right. So, I mean, I know you said you kind of wanted to fly through these last ones, but I think this one's actually legitimately important.
Sure.
JJ McCarthy is buns. No one ever thought he was going to actually be good except the Vikings front office. So
Michigan fans.
I think Johnny's a Michigan fan, and he said, "No, I don't think JJ's it, man." So no, I can't even go that far. I think that again, we were talking earlier, and we brought up Dobbs when his short stint on the Vikings, where he just looked incredible for a couple games, and it actually got him paid a little bit for the next season, and we haven't heard from him since. I think KOC with Kyler Murray, who has shown he has very good ability both throwing the ball and running. This is a very sneaky situation that a lot of people will sleep on just because Kyler hasn't been great the last few years with the video game thing and bad team around it. Just, all of this stuff. This could be a guy that if you're one of those people that are going to punt on quarterback and you're going to take two of them late, 1,000% Kyler should be one of them.
Yeah, the best thing that actually could happen for Kyler's fantasy value is for it to be like an open quarterback competition and people to think that KJ could actually get the start. So
yes,
there's definitely
all the Kyler.
Yeah, my dynasty teams are super happy, even though I did trade him to John in one league. But that's okay.
No. Oh, no.
It's okay. And Justin Jefferson, um, also potential winner from this. We've seen Kyler at, give value to wide receivers in the past. It's been a minute, to be fair, since he's given like a wide receiver one value, but he's never really played with someone like Justin Jefferson in his prime currently either. So, yeah.
Yeah, for all of our day one followers who listen, like all of 18 of you, um, for those of you that have been here, you heard us correctly call that the Vikings pass catchers were not a play and Justin Jefferson was going to hurt your season. I think I can speak for Drew here. I think I can speak for Drew here that we are going to completely flip this if Kyler is named the starter at some point.
I'm not like total flip. I'm not like take him in the top five again
Um,
back in.
I'm I'm
You
all
might
in.
be. I'm definitely. I'm gonna
I'm
take
all
him.
in because
I'm
he'll
gonna take him
probably go
above
towards the
CD.
back of the first.
I'm gonna take him above
He's
CD. The Yep, I'm gonna do it. Last year I was all in on CD because of this George Pickens thing. Um, this year I'm actually gonna lower CD a little bit because I've raised Pickens so high. I think Dak can
I
support
think
both, but the reason that it's not really that I've brought CD down, and it's just that I've leveled him and Pickens to being like a 1A 1B wide receiver. And
I
I know we
think
just
the
totally
reason I'm
switched
so
gears, but
yeah, for sure. I think the reason I'm so bullish on Justin Jefferson is because he's probably going to be a 1-2 turn guy now.
yeah, that's it. It'll really depend on where that value is. He was definitely too high at that position last year, and he probably will be in that same position this year because people have Kyler issues. they they think Kyler Murray and they think poor, and so there's definitely a chance that he still goes in the back of the first round, like you're saying. And if he is if I'm like at the 10 to 12, depending on the size of the league, and Justin Jefferson is there,
All of it.
that's
Give me all of
probably
it.
a smash for me. Um, we'll do some draft stuff though later. But yeah, kind of back in on Justin Jefferson, depending on the price for sure. A couple quick winners here. We mentioned Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, also a winner of the free agency. They brought nobody else in to compete for this backfield. You were super high on him last year. I have a feeling we're both going to be super high on him again this year because of the state of the offense, the defense, no competition whatsoever. Samaje Perine is still not real competition. So, yeah, I think
I know we said we're doing draft stuff later. Where do you think he's going to go? Will he go in the same spot, like late
Um,
second?
I think he will, just because he's not like a super sexy name. There are like
God, I
some
hope
guys
so.
who absolutely love him. You know, like you last year, you had him pretty much everywhere. You took him early to make sure you got him, and I think there will be people like that this year. But he doesn't seem to be a name that's going around the space that you hear very often. Still, like you just when you think of like the top tier running backs, Chase Brown doesn't really come up yet. Um, I think that'll change as we get a little closer and like people start drafting and ADP starts getting talked about a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think right now he's being slept on a little bit. So big winner for me in free agency. We talked a little bit about Justin Fields. He's obviously a winner just by going to the Chiefs. So we don't really need to touch on that anymore. My last winner before we get into some quarterback prospects is Brock Purdy. Um, it's he was already solid, even for fantasy last year. Now you bring in finally a legit wide receiver one in Mike Evans, even if Mike Evans is a shell of what he was the last few years in Tampa Bay. He's still going to be so good for that offense and Brock Purdy just to have that safety outlet in the red zone, especially because they're missing that. They're missing, Ricky Pearsall's great. He's not a red zone guy. Um, Brandon Ayuk, who knows if he's ever going to play football again.
I don't think it matters.
Yeah, some guys are holding out on him. I like somebody in a dynasty league just traded for him, thinking that he's going to go to like the Bills or something along those lines. Again, he might be someone who finds a home after the draft when teams start filling out their positions. So another interesting guy to take a look at though. Brock Purdy, he'll probably be one of my quarterback sleepers depending on where his
This
ADP ends
is
up.
I think you and I are going to both be very high on him next year, and I will go ahead and put my name on the line here and say if you can acquire him in Dynasty, go do it right now.
Yeah, that value is only going to go up as people start thinking about offenses and what's going to
Right.
happen and
So do it now.
situations for
Do it
sure.
now.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some quarterback prospects coming in. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. Both you and I are both in agreement here that a lot of these guys are going to be dart throws for the NFL, let alone fantasy. And so there is some fantasy interesting guys though here because unlike years in the past, there's a lot of mobile quarterbacks in this draft. The issue is honestly in this draft is that a lot of them are not really NFL ready. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens in the draft and where these guys go. Um,
On top of being not NFL ready, 99% of these guys didn't perform in their
yeah,
last
a
season
lot
in
of these
college.
guys, this year is really interesting because when you look at this draft from a year ago, before the college football season, there was like four guys that we all thought was going to go 1-1, 1-2, 1-3. Um, and now, like, all of them may not even go top three rounds. Like we could see some of these guys go from being the first overall pick at the beginning of the college football year to undrafted even. So definitely a weird class that's going to be really dependent on landing spot because there's a lot of what we would call like project quarterbacks here. Let's start with the easy one, Fernando Mendoza. He's a 6'5", 235 senior out of Indiana. Incredible year. Heisman winner, Natty winner, took of all teams Indiana to a national championship. He's the consensus 101. It's already a thing. We don't have to think about it. He's going to go. For fantasy, I worry just a little bit just because of the where he's at. And the pass catching core currently is like they signed Tyler Lockett this offseason. So like he there's not an alpha wide receiver. They've got Brock Bowers, they've got Ashton Genty, both very very good. But for fantasy, I don't know the upside that Mendoza has because
At
he's not
least
a
this year.
rushing
I
quarterback.
I'm I agree. Yeah,
If he
I
was a
agree.
rushing quarterback,
I
oh my
like
god,
I
we'd be
don't remember.
frothing.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is he's not a rushing quarterback, but he's a very capable runner.
He's opportunistic,
So
I would say. Like
right, it
he'll
would
take
so
opportunity.
you're not gonna get 10 attempts a game for 80 yards and a touchdown, but you might get four for 50 because defenses are dropping back because they're afraid of his arm, at least early.
Sure. Yeah,
I
we
think
both think he should
he's
probably sit right away. But
yeah. Well, I don't know. I just don't. I can't remember which version of the podcast it was, whether it was the practice one or this one, but we touched on how the Raiders are not there yet, and the offensive line, even though it is quote revamped, I don't think it's still good. I think he's got a outside chance of threatening a quarterback one situation, but he's a dynasty pick for me. And outside of that, I don't know if I'm going after him in redraft unless it's the last round and I want to take a shot.
yeah, the scouting that I have for him is elite arm talent, but he hesitated in for like tight window throws. He did a little better job of that later in the season as he probably kind of settled in and got comfortable, got confident, which is a huge thing for young quarterbacks. Um, he gets to go to a place where Kubiak is gonna play him in the shotgun, which is what he played a lot of at Indiana too. So he's gonna have to learn to play under center. That's a for sure thing in the NFL. The good news is that Kubiak is gonna allow him to play probably more than most coaches would though in the shotgun. We saw that with Sam Darnold last year. Um, So
He did
that'll be good
he
for at
did
least
play a
getting him
decent
comfortable.
he did play a decent amount under center at Cal. So he has experience of doing it. It's
Yeah,
so
but
I
he
don't know
had
necessarily, but
success. The
in the
real
pros,
success,
it's
though.
it's very different.
Yeah, but the success too was really under shotgun, which is where he was comfortable.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
um, but yeah, adjusting to like pro level speed on defense, I think is going to be a big adjustment for him. Even though he did really well against some good defenses at the end of last year, that's college. Even with good defenses in college, the speed is different. You're looking at
hmm
elite defenders, especially when he goes to the Raiders and has to play that division twice a year. Um, so it'll be interesting for fantasy to see. I think he will probably in rookie drafts, if I had to guess, like I'm thinking somewhere around the 105 to 107 in Superflex, and maybe
and
somewhere down in like
really,
in Superflex. Yeah, I don't think just thinking fantasy point wise. I could see him going 102.
yeah, I
Obviously
think that's
Jeremiah Love.
probably
Um, but if I don't need a quarterback in my Superflex league, I'm not taking Mendoza. He's not. He
yeah,
doesn't have the upside ceiling that I would want to not take one of the potential wide receivers that we expect to go 2, 3, 4. So that's kind of where my thought process is there. In non super flex, he's probably going to be like a middle of round two
last round
guy,
pick.
maybe middle of round two. I think you'll get because of the age. You'll get some people who just want to take a shot on him. He's going to be the starter for at least 2 years. That means something. You've got a guy that is going to start games, and so
Yeah,
like
okay.
I'm a kind of a firm believer in keeping one quarterback in a single quarterback league. I don't like to have multiples just because they take up bench spots and you can't start two of them, especially if I have an elite. So like he's a guy that I could potentially stash and see what happens halfway through the year, see where he's at. Keep him on a taxi squad maybe, but redraft will be like you said, probably very late.
Yeah.
The next one's really interesting. Ty Simpson, he's a 6'1", 210-pound senior out of Alabama. Um, Obviously, I'm a big Alabama fan. I was a huge Ty Simpson fan coming into the season, and I still am. So my bias is probably going to show, but I'm going to do my best to be unbiased here. The biggest red flag for me for Ty Simpson is just the experience. Um, he just he started 15 games in his career, played very well for half of them, played really bad for the other half. So it's kind of a pick your poison. Is he the Ty Simpson from the beginning of the year? Is he the Ty Simpson from the end of the year? We've seen that experience shows in the NFL, and the lack of experience tends to show through for these guys. They don't tend to be successful. It doesn't really translate. We've seen that in multiple guys coming in that people were really high on. So, for me, he's he's more of a rhythm passer. He really had to get going, and that's what we saw in a lot of Bama games. Was once he made two or three like legit style throws, you saw the confidence kind of ramp up, and then he would start taking some shots. The velocity would kind of creep up a little bit. He would get real comfortable. Um, I think he's probably the most mature prospect mentally when it comes to like legitimately reading defenses. I think he has the best mind up there with Mendoza for sure. I think that's going to be the biggest part. He does have the arm to make all the throws in the NFL, but he definitely lacks the consistency when it comes to placement and accuracy. And that's where we both have kind of agreed that he's probably a project. If he can go somewhere, sit a year, I have like the Steelers and the Rams as being the two places where if he can go and land and Rodgers comes back, he gets to learn behind Rodgers. He goes and learns behind Stafford in LA. I think both of those could legitimately be situations where next year we see him get an opportunity. Um, and people forget that he was the number one dual threat quarterback coming out of high school. So it's he's got a legit legs too and can run the ball.
I'm gonna preface Ty Simpson and the rest of these guys with my opinion that won this entire quarterback draft class, including Fernando Mendoza, is the class of guys who need some time to develop or career backups. Um, Ty Simpson had some like really high highs and some really really low lows. And I see in your notes here, like drop rate and bad offensive line, no run game. Bama was a weird team this year, but he just didn't do some of the things that you expect a a guy who's going to be really good in the NFL to do, like take over games and stuff. Because even with all of that, you still had some talent around him that he could operate with. I, I, I also want to preface all these guys with I'm looking for the guy that goes to the Rams.
Yeah,
I
pretty popular.
Yeah, like I think so. In my personal opinion, I would probably put Nussmeier over Simpson. Just because of
this is like no particular order. This was really just
yeah. But I think most people would agree that Mendoza, Simpson, and Nuss are one clear, and then 2, 3 change them how you want.
Sure.
I think if either of these guys go to the Rams, I'd be interested. But regardless of who it is, it's going to require some development, and it's going to require sitting with a good offensive coach and a good quarterback that you're going to have to wait a while. So none of these guys in redraft are worth anything for me.
No, this is pure dynasty talk here.
But yeah, for dynasty, like if either of him or Nuss go to the Rams or a very good situation where they have potential to play within the next year or two, then yeah, outside of that, it's yikes.
Yeah, no, my bias is definitely showing when I say that I believe Ty has all the tools, but he does need the situation and the coaching to kind of unleash them. Yeah, you mentioned the lack of run game, the bad O line. It was the third highest drop rate in college football, um, which is insane. Like it was like 8% of his passes were dropped, which is wild when you think about Alabama and the wide receivers that were there. Um, Ryan Williams being one of them. So yeah, it'll be just one of those things that we're going to have to see where he goes and where the situation goes too. Let's go to Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU, another senior, which is kind of a trend in this class. But he's 6'1", 205, so not the biggest guy in this class. He was definitely the guy, though, at the beginning of the college football season that everybody thought would go as the 101. He threw for 4,000 yards and almost 30 touchdowns in 2024. And then coming into this year, kind of a strange situation. He had an ab injury that like hindered his mobility to twist, which if you're familiar with the quarterback position is super, super important because it stopped him from being able to move his hips. So like he had to make throws with his arm only, which is not good for quarterbacks. You need your hips and your lower body to really throw the ball as accurately and as hard as you need to. But he also had, and I had to look this up because I was curious. He had patellar tendonitis that was related to Osgood Schlatter disease, which again I had to look this up myself. But basically, this is when the patellar tendon pulls on the growth plate at the top of your shin bone. So like it's a knee issue, and it can cause chronic knee issues moving forward. But this is rare, super super rare to be flamed up this late. Typically, this is like a low. I'm sorry, not a low, but like this happens in the growth plate, which means it happens while you're growing in like puberty. You tend to have these types of issues. So kind of a weird situation. And then he also sprained his ankle. So add to all of that with a sprained ankle. Um, Again, he has every tool to be an NFL quarterback. He was very, very good at LSU in 2024. If he can get back to pre-injury Nuss, he could absolutely fight for a starting job depending on where he goes. Um, big time arm. He was a little bit inconsistent, but that was really with the injuries. He was very good in 2024. Um, what are your thoughts on Nussmeier?
Yeah, so you're a Bama fan, so you have the Ty Simpson bias. Garrett Nussmeier was kind of my guy that I had the bias on. I fell into the trap of believing that LSU was going to be this incredible team this year. I had futures on them to win the national championship. They had a lot on defense that really underperformed. But the offense itself was hyped up beyond belief, and I think Garrett Nussmeier getting injured had a lot to do with it. But like that entire offense was dismal at best.
Yeah,
Um, like you said, he has all of the tools, and I think like this is the ideal guy for me to go sit behind Stafford in LA and
yeah,
be the project. Let him get healthy. Let them spend all that money to figure out how to make sure that this guy's going to stay up. But he has all of the NFL tools, and I think the LSU offense also says a lot on top of his performance. Like God rest his soul, Kyron Lacey not being around for a lot of last season.
yeah,
Um, that was his number one receiver. So you lose that. The offensive line was not good. The run game was very what was his name? Oh my god, I love that kid. The running back, K Durham, I think,
yes,
right? Yeah, K Durham. I think he's very good, but he even struggled at times because of how bad the offensive line was and the receivers were. Talk about a drop rate. They had a very high drop rate as well. Nuss and Simpson are very, very similar to me, and I think that's kind of why they're that number two, number three spot interchangeable. I think Nuss is a significantly better thrower, and if they can overcome the injuries, this guy is probably the only other interesting quarterback out of this draft outside Mendoza. But
yeah,
again, that could just be my bias speaking.
yeah. For NFL purposes, for sure. I'm a little lower on Nussmeier when it comes to like fantasy. He doesn't he doesn't give any kind of rushing upside. Um, and I just don't know if I see him being like a long term starter in the NFL. Um, but he could absolutely prove me wrong. There's no doubt. But this is a fantasy show, so I had to say it. Let's talk about a guy who could definitely be fantasy relevant at some point in his career. It's going to take a lot. It's Cole Payton, the senior out of North Dakota State. He's 6'3", 223, and ran a 4.6, which is real fast for a dude that big. Um, with like his size speed combo, he really just gives you like Josh Allen vibes because he's not afraid to go and take a hit, lower his shoulder, and try to get an extra yard or two, kind of like Josh Allen does. He's a little sporadic with the arm. He will definitely have to adapt to whatever offense he goes to. He ran a ton of shotgun RPO, like bootleg style plays in college, which doesn't really translate to the NFL that much. But he's got huge upside if he goes to the right situation himself. And for fantasy, just because of the rushing upside, we love that. One of the biggest rules that we're going to talk about later is always get you a guy that can do both. And when you have an arm like him and you can also run 4.6 at 220 pounds, that's going to bode well for fantasy if you can see the field. Um, my like biggest comp for him was like the white Jalen Milrow, but not quite as fast. Hopefully he can see the field though, because it doesn't look like we're going to see Jalen Milrow at least for another couple
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, North Dakota State's one of those teams that like is always at the top of the FBS level. And they're going to D1, so that's going to be exciting to see, but like they just run a system that the only thing you get on the offensive side of the ball that's successful is offensive linemen. Um yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at. I've never really been big on North Dakota State guys. Um if he had
Was it Trey
played at a
Lance? Was Trey Lance North
yeah,
Dakota State?
yeah, he was, and I
Yeah,
wasn't really big on him either. I never really understood how coaches thought that system would translate. Again, maybe he might be able to do something in like a Kubiak off. Oh my god, oh my god.
sorry.
Drew just got hit by a bus, everyone. Rest in peace.
Mini seizure here. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, long story short, he's an NDSU guy, very talented, but I don't know if he's going to be able to operate at the NFL level.
Yeah, where he again, like all of these guys are so dependent on where they're going to go that it's so hard to scout them this early. I see him being a real project though, and if he can see the field, I'm gonna like Malik Willis style, right? Like we could see him in 4 or 5 years with the rushing ability be viable for fantasy. So we'll see what happens though. Let's move on to Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik, 6'2", 210, another senior. So the trend here is that all these guys are older than we've seen in the past, which really I think tells you about this class in general. When we don't have anybody who's projected to go early, um, not one of them came out early. So a lot of seniors. So I think that kind of tells you where the talent level is for this class. Um, Actually, I think it's why Ty Simpson is actually even coming out this year, because next year is such a expected to be the class again.
Way
So,
deeper, yeah.
good on Ty for making that decision to go ahead and make the jump now. But with Cade, he's another dual threat guy. He really does have some wheels though. I think it's a little underrated how fast he is, and he can make a lot of guys miss in the open field. But the things that I saw, at least on tape when I was scouting, um, he's got some really nice anticipation on the ball, and he throws a really pretty ball, but very inconsistent. He was super hit or miss. He missed a lot of guys that were running wide open. He tends to sit on his first read a little bit, and he waits for guys to get open rather than he's not open, he's not open, he's not open. Now back to another read or a check down. It was more like I'm going to wait for my first read to get open, and like the third read is running wide open down the field, and he didn't quite make it there. That's like my biggest knock, I think, really on a lot of this class. But physically, again, all the tools, if he can put it together, he could actually be pretty dangerous because he is so athletic. If mentally he can keep up with the NFL, I think he could be a sleeper come draft time and make a push for a starting job, depending on injuries and situation.
Yeah, this is another guy who I agree with your scouting, but I also think a lot of that had to do with the tremendous decline of the Clemson program in general. They just missed on so many offensive prospects that there wasn't a lot for him to operate with. Cade Klubnik kind of came into a lot of that, where when he committed to Clemson, there was a ton of talk of how this guy is going to be incredible and he's going to be a future 1 overall pick. I mean, even last year he was a Heisman favorite, I believe. He was up there. Like there was just so much hype around this guy that they never lived up to. I personally think he's one of the smarter quarterbacks in this draft class, and he is very athletic. If he can go to the right scheme again, like if we see him go to LA, this is a guy I might be interested in. If not for anything, the athletic ability, but I do think he will be able to, at the bare minimum, be a career journeyman backup quarterback that makes a lot of money and is always like a stash guy somewhere. He's a little higher on my board than than a lot of others, especially after a good combine performance. But I can see a situation where he really surprises a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean you say smart. I think a lot of that came from like I think it's a lack of aggression, like kind of. I think
Yeah.
he was a
Okay.
little afraid to push the ball down the field, and
And
maybe
I
that.
think a lot of I mean, we know Clemson for having all of these incredible wide receivers. They have not had that the last few
Yeah,
years.
and that was kind of where I was going to
I
go
think
with
that's part of it.
a lack of depth at the offense. that they've been missing the last year or two. That we're at least used to seeing from Dabo Sweeney teams. But I think he could push the ball a little bit. He could push the ball downfield a little bit more for me. Um, these low eight out guys, Bo Nix, we saw him have success in the NFL, so it could work. You never know. Um, let's burn through a couple more here, and then we'll get out of here. Carson Beck is the last one, or the next one. He's a 5-year starter coming from Georgia into Miami. He's 6'2", 210, so he's got a little size to him. All these guys are about the same size, weirdly enough. But he was really, he was like the talk of town at the beginning of last year. Going from Georgia, having so much success at Georgia, and then coming in really like getting paid to go to Miami. I don't want to say that he got like recruited by Miami because he just took a cash grab and left, with Gunnar Stockton really taking over that job. He's a pocket passer. He doesn't really bring any rushing upside. He was really good in like short and intermediate throws. Looked solid on these like out routes, 10 to 15 yards. Has a great arm for those. Personally, he's a little cocky for me. That For a guy who I don't think has the capacity to be like a long term NFL guy. I think mentally he's just in a place that I'm passing on. Um, when I watch his film and I think about him as a prospect.
I have guys that I like attached to that I really like for my own personal reasons, but maybe to the eyes of a lot, they really don't like. I'm the exact opposite on Carson Beck. Everything I've ever seen from him, I just don't like him.
Is it his
But I
forehead?
don't think dude, he looks like Sid the Sloth. I don't know. I just don't like him. I don't think he's a good player. I can see him going very, very, very late in the draft to San Francisco, where in a scheme where like I think he would benefit, but I like not ever to threaten Brock Purdy, not to like he's just going to be a guy that they want to see what they can get out of him, and that's what it is.
Like
I
sixth, seventh round, maybe. I don't know.
he 1000% benefited from an incredible offensive line, an incredible run game, and some like surprisingly good wide receivers in Miami. Like he was not good at Georgia. He actually was, I believe, held Georgia back. And when they moved to Gunnar Stockton and he went to Miami, I thought Miami was dead in the water. Like I thought that was it. I thought they were going to get trashed on by Clemson and all these teams in the ACC. And granted, the ACC looked terrible this year, but I don't know, man. I don't. I think he was a benefactor of the guys around him. I've never really seen anything I've been impressed with, and I don't think he's going to be. Yeah, I don't think he'll be in the NFL for longer than 3 years, personally.
Yeah, I'm probably where you're at with there too. Um, yeah, same vibes though. Again, I try not to be biased towards these guys in the space that we're in and what we're doing, but it's tough. He's a tough guy to like for me. Unless you were a Miami fan, I think you probably felt this is the same way about him. I haven't heard anybody really hype him up as like a super exciting prospect, but still a quarterback that's going to get drafted, so we got to talk about him. Um, let's talk about maybe the most interesting quarterback in the draft for me. Um, Talon Green, senior out of Arkansas, a big boy. He is 6'6", 235 pounds, and he's like zero doubt the most athletic quarterback in this class. Um,
Did he run like a 4.3?
he ran something insane. I don't actually
Yeah,
have it in front of me.
it
um,
was. I might have it. I'll go ahead and I'll come back.
but yeah, he absolutely
Four three
has,
seven.
yeah, insane. Um, he's he's the most interesting guy to me. He has maybe the strongest arm in this class. He can absolutely make the throws. The problem with him is really going to be like what you see with most low end rushing quarterbacks is like pocket awareness and accuracy. He's not super like quick. Like Jalen Milroe was quick last year. He could just beat someone from a standstill. He's not that quick, but when he like gets going in a straight line like he ran at the combine, that dude is so fast. I think he would be like the perfect situation. We talked a little bit about Justin Fields being like a goal line package. For me, he has goal line package written all over him. Um, I would be scared to death if this dude was lined up at quarterback. I could see him potentially even transferring to like H back at some point. Who was like Logan Thomas style back in the day, um, the quarterback out of Virginia Tech that ended up
He
playing
he
tight
he
end for
came
a
out
long
and
time.
yeah, he came out and said that he is getting drafted as a quarterback. That might change, but
Yeah, I mean Logan Thomas was also drafted as a quarterback and then transferred to tight end when he realized that okay, I either move positions or I'm not in the NFL anymore. So that could potentially be the case for someone like Taylor Green in the future. Um, for fantasy, if this guy sees the field, he's going to be in my starting lineup. Though, like he's that kind of guy when he gets the ball. It's Jalen Milroe, right? When he's on draft boards, you're not going to look at him unless you're stashing him in dynasty for a potential Sam Darnold injury. But if Jalen Milroe or someone like Taylor Green sees the field, they are in my starting lineup 99% of the time, just because of the rushing upside.
yeah. So this one's hard for me because as an avid gambler, Arkansas was kind of that team that you always took on the points because they were really bad. But between him and Mike Washington, a guy we'll definitely talk about at length at another episode, those two were really the reason that Arkansas was ever in any game. And somehow, no matter who they played, they always made it like interesting at points.
They were fun to
Now they
watch.
lost a lot of games. Yeah, they were very fun to watch, and it was primarily because of Taylor Green and Mike Washington.
Yeah.
A lot of it had to do with the athleticism. But like I have his stats up in front of me: 60.7 completion percentage, 2,714 yards, and a 19 touchdown, 11 interception ratio. But like 777 lucky straight sevens yards for 8 touchdowns. Like
Love
I,
that.
I would have loved to see him on like a legitimate team to see what he could do because his accuracy was definitely in question, but like he threw for 60% completion on a team that took a ton of deep shots because of how defenses were playing up to cover him in the running back. So this guy is very interesting. I can see him getting drafted in the 6th or 7th round, or see him getting drafted in the third. This is going to be a big one that like I want to see what the NFL thinks because he gives me terrifying Anthony Richardson vibes.
Yeah.
But Anthony Richardson, who again was another guy I watched a ton of, was holding Florida back. Taylor Green was one of the primary reasons that Arkansas was competitive.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point.
I don't know. I really want to see. I really want to see what the NFL thinks and where he goes. But like you said, the athletic profile, like he has to be on your board somewhere. Like you have to get him if you can get him at a value.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just, like I said, we love guys who do both. And if he gets the opportunity, his legs are going to be the reason that we like him in fantasy. Um, Real quick, Drew Aller, another guy that I'm going to kind of look for landing spot.
No,
It's,
no, no,
yeah, you're out.
no.
It's one of the drafts where I, like you just said, I'm gonna let the NFL kind of like sway me in a direction on because I could like make a case for and against this entire quarterback class. Like when you look at the top 7 or 8 guys who have potential to get drafted, um, I could literally make a case for why all of them could and should go in the top 3 rounds, or why none of them should go in the top 3 rounds. And so it's really interesting to me, and I'm going to let the NFL really tell me for fantasy who I'm going to be picking and where. So it'll be interesting conversations after the draft for these guys. Yeah, you're totally out on Aller. That's cool.
Oh,
I'm not I'm not
yeah,
exactly in.
I'm all the way out.
I'm not exactly in. But again, if the NFL tells me different, I'm at least going to have an open mind about it. Unfortunately, he dealt with a lot of injuries himself. Um, Another guy that I'm looking at is Jalen Daniels out of Kansas.
Yes, that one I'm a little more in on.
Yeah, I like the skill set a little bit more on Daniels. Another good quarterback that was on a not as good team and was the reason why they were competitive in games. Um, we have to mention Diego Pavia in this class, I guess.
No, we don't.
He's going to be a great Canadian Football League player.
Yeah, he might not even get drafted, to be totally honest.
It says he's 6 foot 207. There's absolutely no way that dude is 6 foot tall. Not a chance.
I'm pretty sure I'm taller than he is, and I'm 5'10".
There's no chance that dude is 6 foot tall. um, yeah, absolute tool. He's my, like, your Carson Beck for you. Diego Pavia is that for me. Ever since really like the Alabama game when they played each other and he was like holding his crotch towards the fans and went and I think he threw for like 200 yards and was barely in that game. Um, just just one of those guys that gives me ick, and I can't do it. Some people love this kid. I say
Yeah.
kid. He's not a kid. He's like 20.
So I mean, just
But
yeah, just summing up a lot. I'll start with Pavia. Like I love his story, man. He came from nothing, and like, if he was a little more humble, I would be all in for the guy. I would love him and hope for the best. I would never draft him, but he is such a bad word.
he's such a
He's a tool. And like, again, when you can lead teams like Vandy to any type of relevance and you can knock off Bama, like, awesome, dude. You just let your college legacy live, and that's what it is. Like,
There's
I
a
don't
reason
think he gets
Johnny
drafted.
Manziel was his mentor.
Yeah, yeah, but Manziel was really good. So I don't. This is a difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm out on him. And again, with Drew Aller, another guy that got hyped up to incredible standards, surrounded by all of the talent in the world. I think it was either 2 years ago or last year. Penn State went out of their way to acquire the best wide receivers money could buy, and he still sucked. I can't. I don't see why anyone would ever consider him to be an NFL quarterback. But Jalen Daniels is interesting. The big knock on him is he ran a 4.65 at the 40 and the 40 at the at the combine. So again, that always goes further than it should. But I mean, I just talked about Taylor Green's stats. He threw for 62%, 2,531 yards, but with a 22 touchdown to 7 interception split. And then he still had 400 yards of rushing for 4 touchdowns. He's interesting. I don't think he's as accurate as Daniels can be, or I'm sorry, as Taylor Green is, which is saying something because Taylor Green's not really that accurate. But he's interesting. He might be a guy that, like, at the very end of the rookie draft, if I have an extra 4th round for whatever reason, I'll snag him. But it's a long shot, but he's interesting at the very least.
Yeah, he will more than likely be a guy who goes undrafted. But yeah, that'll do it. That's enough of the quarterbacks for sure. We'll get into some of these guys after the draft, see where they land. We'll kind of do an update on all of these guys, and give more of like a fantasy take than speculative once the NFL kind of tells us how they feel about them too. And then we can talk about landing spot and that. and all that jazz later on. But that'll do it for us today, guys. On the next episode, we are going to start with some running back prospects. So stay with us. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to comment, follow the socials, all the good stuff over there. Follow us on X.
Share.
Tell your friends. But thanks for being with us. See you guys next time.